Well, hello, welcome back. More by-election action happening this week across England and Scotland once again. 15 this week, Lib Dems defending 6, the Labour Party defending 5, and then there's 4 that are either independent or local resident associations that are either being defended or up for grabs. So thank you for joining me again. Please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're into UK political coverage. I don't think there's really a channel on YouTube doing this sort of political analysis across UK politics, not to this sort of granular detail, I suppose. I'm trying to make the content better as we go along, so I'm very appreciative of your support and your forbearance as I make the content more entertaining and better for you. So thanks for being here. We'll get straight into it. We'll start off in Glasgow. There's 3 council seats being defended by Labour in Glasgow, and we think Labour will defend all of them. Now I will shout out Ballotbox Scotland from the start here. Ballotbox.scot, I mentioned them in the previous video. Very good analysis of Scottish politics, very detailed, very informative. I have to admit I am somewhat out of touch with Scottish politics, not being local to Scotland. But this person who runs this website clearly very much in the know, and having looked at their preview coverage for these 3 Glasgow seats, we're thinking Labour will win all of them. This one I've got on the screen, Maryhill, they've got likely Labour. It'd be interesting to see if Labour can increase their lead over the SNP after first preferences, or if the SNP can sneak ahead. That would maybe lead to the SNP winning it off them. But we're thinking Labour will win this one and the other 2 as well. Yes, interesting to see the margin of victory after first preferences in some of them, including this one. So that's those 3. Labour will also hold Sefton. That's up in the northwest near Liverpool. Labour will hold that ward on Sefton Council. I'm fairly confident of that. And the Liberal Democrats, of course, as I mentioned, defending 6 this week, and I think they'll successfully hold at least 4 of them. I think they'll hold the council seat on Highland Council. Again, deferring to Ballot Box Scotland, their information suggests there's the Liberal Democrat candidate has previously been an independent, got quite a strong personal vote in the area. So I think Liberal Democrats will hold Highland. They'll hold Horsham, where the Liberal Democrats are very strong. They control that council. Likewise in Somerset. And in Rutland, very sadly, a Liberal Democrat councillor there passed away, which is why that one's up for election. She won her seat very convincingly previously, so I think the Liberal Democrats will defend Rutland as well. So 4 of the 6, I think the Liberal Democrats will successfully defend. Certainly one I don't think they will necessarily successfully defend is in Dacorum. So the top 2 on the list there, Bennett's End, which is currently was held by an independent, and Hemel Hempstead Town, which was held by a Liberal Democrat, are the 2 up for election this week. Now there's been a bit of a scandal on Dacorum in Dacorum Council regarding the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats had a majority on this council; they controlled it, but 8 of their female councillors resigned the Liberal Democrat whip. So they're still councillors, but they resigned the whip for the Liberal Democrats, meaning the Liberal Democrats lost their majority on this council and therefore lost majority control of the council. So a bit of a scandal. It's due to bullying and harassment allegations against a former leader. So a bit of a scandal for the Liberal Democrats that may well hurt their campaigning chances or re-election chances in Hemel Hempstead in particular, Hemel Hempstead Town Ward in particular. Let's have a look then at what happened in 2023. So we'll start with Bennett's End. Bennett's End was held by John Burney, who was an independent. Sadly, he's passed away earlier this year, so his seat's up for by-election. Mr. Burney was previously a Conservative councillor, not in the Bennett's End ward, elsewhere, but then he stood as an independent in Bennett's End and won in 2023. He did very well, but you can see Labour also performed quite well in this ward. So one may think that Labour have a good shot at winning this one. However, Reform are standing in this ward as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Reform do. You know, we saw in the results last week when I averaged out the English vote share, the vote change, Labour were down 10% on average across English constituencies, or English wards, sorry, and Reform were up 12%, the Tories were up 3.5%. So it'll be interesting to see how Reform's vote in this ward, how will they do? Do they charge up to that 15% mark that we've seen in a few places and deprive the Conservatives of beating Labour in a close race? Or will they hurt Labour's votes? I think, we up to this point we've spoken a lot about Reform being a thorn in the Conservative side. I think that's still largely true, but I think as time goes on and as the Labour government at UK level has been in power for longer, and if the dissatisfaction grows as it currently has over the first few months with the Labour government, I think Reform will gradually become more and more of a thorn in Labour's side. Maybe a bit too early to say that's going to happen here. Like we say, Labour got almost 900 votes in 2023, decent whack ahead of the Conservatives. So I feel like it's leaning Labour, but it'll be interesting to see just how much their vote share may decrease here and may let other people into the race. So that's Bennett's End, kind of a bit of a toss-up. And Hemel Hempstead Town's another interesting one. So this one, Sadie Hobson is the councillor who's resigned her seat. I don't know if that's to do with this bullying and harassment scandal that's engulfed the council, or if it's extraneous to that. But either way, she's resigned her seat, so it's up for election. Now, as you can see, the Liberal Democrats did very well in this ward. They were quite comfortably the winners. And the Conservatives and Labour were pretty much neck and neck. They both got between them 650 to 700 votes in that area. So very close between the two of them. Again, Reform standing in Hemel Hempstead Town ward as well. So the same sort of thing we're talking about in Bennett's End. How will the Reform vote sort of manipulate the outcome? But also, is the scandal on the council going to hurt the Liberal Democrats' votes? I mean, I would naturally think yes, it will. And if it does, then I think it really is going to be a toss-up, because the Conservatives and Labour are very close, neck and neck. So it really is going to depend on sort of where Reform's vote comes from and who they damage the most. It could go either way, I think. Can Reform win this ward? I don't think so. I think that would be a bit of a stretch. If we go to the nowcast, if we have a look at Hemel Hempstead, Labour won it off of the Tories, and there's still currently a decent whack ahead. The Reform are in a fairly decent third. So it's one of those where I'd expect to see Reform do quite well and pick up maybe 12 to 15% of the vote, but not enough to put themselves into the lead. But who knows? I got a few of them wrong last week, so I'm certainly not saying that with any sort of great confidence. So I think both of these on Dacorum Council will be quite close, and it will be interesting to see if the Liberal Democrats have been hurt by this scandal, and just to see what Reform can do here in an area of the country where they're not necessarily strong, but just in general they're the party with the momentum at the moment. Okay, so we'll move down to the southeast then, into Kent. Now, there's two council seats, or two wards, up for election in Kent. One is on Kent County Council, that's Swanscombe and Greenhithe ward, and one is on Dartford Borough Council, which is the third one down of that list there, in Greenhithe and Knockwall ward. Now, from my research of this video, it seems to me that it's the same man, an independent, who stands for, or non-independent, sorry, he was a representative of a local residents association, and it seems as though he was the councillor both on Dartford Borough Council and Kent County Council. Now, I assumed that you could only be one or the other. I didn't know that you could be on both, so there's a potentially I've misunderstood what I've read, or misunderstood some of the election results. If you know for a fact that can't happen, then please do leave a comment below and inform me on what the laws are regarding this. But for this video, I'm assuming, based off what I've read, and I have kind of checked and double checked, it seems to be the case, that he has been sitting on Dartford Borough Council and on Kent County Council. So with that in mind, this is the results for Dartford Borough Council in 2023. This chap, Peter Harmon, again, sadly he's passed away earlier this year. He was representing, as you can see there, Swanscombe and Greenhithe Residents Association, so just a local residents association. He won this fairly comfortably, actually, over 120 votes, ahead of the Conservatives. On the County Council, he won even more convincingly, and in that one he pipped Labour, so Labour was second in the County Council. Again, same as what we were saying in Dacorum, Reform are standing in both of these, and Kent, as we mentioned in a previous video, Kent is an area of the country where Reform are currently doing very well, and we'll see that in a bit later on in this video as well. They're doing quite well. They're very close second, or in some places even into first in some of the constituencies down in Kent, using the nowcast figures for parliamentary voting. So will be very interesting to see if Reform can make an impact on these two elections, by-elections. Now I can see there on the screen, Reform stood a candidate in this last election, only got 55 votes and 2%, so way behind, not even really in the race. But I will draw your attention to the fact this was in May of 2021. So at the time, Nigel Farage had stepped down, he had retired from politics. Reform was pretty much irrelevant at this stage, to be honest. So it's a completely different ballgame to now, where Reform is led by Nigel Farage, and they now have 5 members of Parliament in Westminster. So different ballgame. I don't think we should take too much from the fact that Reform did poorly last time out. I think they will do a lot better than that this time. As for the Borough Council, no Reform candidate stood in 2023, but there is this time. So again, it's going to be interesting to see where's their vote going to come from, who are they going to harm the most. And the other thing we need to mention in both of these is that Swanscombe and Greenhithe Residents Association are standing candidates in both of these elections as well. I'm not local to the area, so I don't know, if that residents association, clearly they're quite well organised. They can stand numerous candidates. So there is also the chance that the Residents Association defend these seats as well, which we shan't discount at all. We shall quickly make a diversion to the south coast, to Gosport. So Harbourside and Town is the ward. Labour councillor has again sadly passed away, so his seat is up for by-election. Alan Durrant is the chap. You can see in this ward the Labour Party won 55% combined vote share in 2022. So it seems like it's probably quite a Labour friendly ward. Will be interesting in this one to see, again, Reform are standing. Again, it's the same story really. We'll see where their vote comes from. Would expect to see Labour's vote share decline, 10 to 20% potentially, which might let in the Conservatives. We'll have to wait and see on that one. So it's a similar story across a lot of these wards, to be honest with you. This one I feel again it's going to be very dependent on how well Reform does and where their vote comes from. Lastly, we go back across to Kent. I meant to do this one before, which is why we're now going back across to Kent. But so back across to Kent, to Swale Council, and the ward is Merston. So this one is held currently by an independent, or is a member of it, is a Swale Independence Alliance, is the name of the party. This councillor has had to resign. He's been caught up in a scandal, which has led to him not attending council meetings for a period of 6 months, which has made his seat forfeit. So there is a by-election for it. Previously, James Hall is the chap. He won 34% of the vote, won quite comfortably, by over 200 votes ahead of Labour last time out. This was 2023. He also won it in 2019 by an even more significant margin. So again, have to factor in the idiosyncrasy of the area. I don't know if he sort of is carrying his was carrying his victories on a personal vote, or if the Swale Independence Alliance are very popular in the area. The Independence Alliance are standing again here, so again, same with what we had in Dartford and Kent County Council. Absolutely possible that the Swale Independents could defend this if they're very popular in the area. But now we mentioned reform a lot in this video and how they're going to influence the various by-elections. This one is the most interesting, I think, for reform, because if we go to the 2024 general election results, Labour won Sittingbourne and Sheppey, which is where this, I believe, is where this ward is located. The Swale itself is part of it's in Sittingbourne and Sheppey, part of it's in Faversham and Mid-Kent constituencies, but I believe this ward, Merston, is in Sittingbourne and Sheppey. So Labour won it by a very small margin, less than 1%, 355 majority, with Reform picking up 25% of the vote. However, in the intervening period, if we go to the nowcast, Reform are actually now projected to win Sittingbourne and Sheppey off of Labour, who have been pushed right way back into third place behind the Conservatives. So clearly, Kent is a very fertile ground for Reform at the moment, one of the most fertile regions in the country for Reform at the moment. So I feel like this is probably the best chance of the ones we've looked at today, where Reform might be in with the chance of winning this seat on Swale Council. But all the caveats that I mentioned before have to stand. I don't know how popular the Swale Independence Alliance are. They may well be able to defend it. Labour came second in 2023, fairly distant second, about 12% or 11% ahead of the Conservatives. So maybe it's a more sort of Labour-leaning left-wing area. But I think this is an area where UKIP have done well in the past as well. So I think we'll keep an eye on this one on Friday morning. Could very well be a Reform gain. And that is the lot. So quite a bit there. To be honest, I've bottled this week, really calling a lot. I've just said we'll have to see what Reform does, and it's a bit of a toss up. But that's how it is. There's a lot of these I can't really call, I have to say. And I stand by what I say. I think a lot of it will depend on how well Reform does and who they take votes off of. I may have slightly overstated their influence on the Dacorum council elections, because I'm not sure they'll be that popular there. I'm not sure that's that fertile a ground for Reform. But I think those ones are close anyway, just based off previous voting and sort of current attitudes towards Labour and the Tories. Just makes a couple of those going to be quite close. I think the Liberal Democrats will do well in outside of Dacorum in all those seats that they're defending. So they'll have another good night. And it could be a good night for Reform if they can capitalise and convert their momentum in Kent into a win in Swale and possibly also Dartford, who knows. So we'll keep a good eye on the results, and I will be with you again on sometime after Thursday, hopefully on Friday. If not, then maybe after the weekend again, looking at the results of these by-elections. So thank you very much for watching. Please do leave me comments, suggestions for how to improve the content, and also just your opinions on what you think might happen and your sort of general outlook on politics in England and the UK at the moment. I'd love to have your interaction. Thank you very much for watching, much appreciated. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you after these by-election results.